Hey everyone, welcome to the Tech Banter. My name is Ankur. I'm a tech professional based out of Seattle.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vishal. I'm a software engineer in a big tech company, and I'm also based in Seattle. So, Ankur, what is the topic for today?
Today, let's discuss about the tech earnings that have just come out. All the tech companies declared their second quarter earnings. It will be good to just go through the highlights and then we can dive deep into few of the companies that we find interesting.
Sure. Yeah, I watched the tech earnings, and I'm super excited what you have to share about them.
Yeah, same here. I'm looking forward to what you share as well. I'm drinking vodka with some Sprite. How about you?
Today, I have this sparkling wine.
Yeah,
Cheers,
cheers.
Ankur.
All right, so let's begin by summarizing the quarterly earnings for the FAANG companies. We will get into the earnings of Google, Apple, Facebook or Meta, Netflix, and then we'll leave Amazon for the end because Vishal will be diving deep into the earnings for Amazon. And after that, I will get into the earnings for Uber because I think Uber had a very interesting quarterly results. And then we'll end it off with Vishal talking about AMD. I think AMD had a pretty interesting quarter as well. And
Yeah.
then at the end, we'll also give you all an update of the stock picker fantasy game that we play. It's been quite a surprising month for both of us in the fantasy stock picks.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, it's going to be an action packed episode talking about a lot of earnings and stocks and quarterly results. So, if that's something that you enjoy following, this is the episode for you. All right. So, without any further ado, let's summarize the quarterly results of some of the top tech companies. What I did is I just pulled up the results for these companies on Bard, and I'm just going to kind of read through the highlights provided by Bard. So let's start it off with Apple. Posted quarterly revenue of $81.8 billion, down 1% year over year, and quarterly earnings per diluted share of 1.26, up 5% year over year. Some highlights were iPhone sales fell 2.4% to 39.7 billion, missing analyst expectations. iPad sales fell 14.1% to $10.2 billion, also below the analyst expectations. But Mac sales rose 8.6% to $10.9 billion, beating analysts' expectations of $10.5 billion. The positive from Apple was the company's services business continued to grow, with revenue reaching a new all-time high of $21 billion. So when we talk about services business, these are things like Apple Music, iCloud, Apple TV Plus, App Store, etc. Overall, Apple had a pretty mixed quarterly results. I think the stock after the results has largely stayed flat, so not a significant change in terms of the stock price after the results.
So, we have discussed this about Apple, right? Like, what next for Apple, right? And I see this quarter being the turning point. I think Apple has to come up with something new now, right?
Yeah,
The iPhone sales that we have been talking about, right? I think eventually there will be a saturation at some point. And Apple now, I think we are seeing that the services business is now the main business over there, right?
yeah.
I think their app store is one of the biggest factor over there, right? But the device segment of Apple, I think there is some, yeah, either that's the reason we did that episode of Vision Pro. And
Yeah.
I think Apple is trying to search new avenues of how devices can be more relevant.
Yeah, Apple has to really up their game in terms of launching something new after the
Yeah.
iPhone. So Vision Pro obviously looked very promising in the demo, but proof is in the pudding. So we'll see how people actually use it or not. And then I have also heard about Apple Car. in the works. So that has to be like another big play for Apple that needs to work for the company to kind of continue to be darling of the
Yes.
streets, right?
Yes.
So yeah, very, very, very good call out.
Like when I was watching the earnings for all the big tech companies, right?
I
So the one major theme I saw was they were hitting revenues and profit of all-time high, and the market was still not rewarding it because of the future guidance. So that was a theme I saw in most of the companies, right?
You are right.
Google being a little bit exception because actually Google was undervalued, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
And when Google results came out, I think the market took it in a positive way, and the stock price reflected that.
I think Google went up, I think almost like 7 or 8% after
Seven
the
to eight
result.
percent, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually a good segue because I have the Google highlights in front of me. So
Okay.
Google reported revenue of $74.6 billion, up 7% from the same period last year. Earnings per share were $1.44, up 18% from last year. Some other highlights were Google Cloud continues to be a major driver for growth. Revenues from cloud increased 28% to $5.5 billion. The company also saw strong growth in its advertising business, with revenue up 3.3% to $58.1 billion. Google's other bets division, which includes businesses like Waymo, Verily, continued to lose money.
Okay.
However, the division's revenue did increase by 48% to $285 million. Overall, a pretty strong quarter, as you said, from Google. The stock went up,
Yeah.
streets
And
liked it.
I
Yeah.
think the most important factor over there was GCP.
Yeah.
Their GCP revenue has grown, and I think it is catching up with all the big players now.
Yes. That was Google. Let's talk about Netflix next. So the company beat analysts' expectations for earning per share, but missed on revenue. Netflix added 5.9 million subscribers, almost 6 million subscribers in the
Okay.
quarter, bringing its total subscriber base to 238 million. That's a huge number.
Wow.
This was the company's slowest quarterly subscriber growth in over 4 years. Even with those crazy numbers, it's the slowest. Netflix's revenue rose 3% to $8.1 billion in the quarter. This was the company's slowest quarterly revenue growth in over 2 years.
Okay.
Netflix's average revenue per membership, ARPM, fell to $9.81 in the quarter, down from 10.11 in the same quarter last year. This was the first time that Netflix's ARPM has fallen in over a year. Yeah, mostly I would say not a very positive earnings from Netflix this quarter.
Yeah.
And I think the stock went down almost 6-7% after the results. I know because I was owning Netflix in my fantasy stock picker
Fantastic. Yeah.
portfolio. That was one of the reasons that I actually lost to you, Vishal.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, these are obviously big tech companies, and I think all the low hanging fruits for these companies are already kind of done. So they have to do something super innovative to see the next round of growth. So very similar theme, as you said, to other companies like Apple, to some extent Google as well. All right, so that was Netflix, and our next in the FAANG list of companies is Facebook or Meta. And Meta actually had, I would say, the best quarter amongst all
Yes.
the big tech companies. So Meta reported earnings. The revenue was $32 billion, an increase of 11% year over year. Earnings per share was $2.98, beating analyst estimates of $2.92. Meta's revenue growth was driven by growth in its advertising business. Advertising revenue was $29.1 billion, an increase of 12% year over year. I think the monthly active users still went down quarter over quarter because I think the last quarter was 3.64 billion monthly active users, down from 3.67 billion in the first quarter. So very small decrease, but still it's a downward trend. So the monthly active users are no longer increasing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this was the second quarter that Meta had a similar downward trend. I think last quarter it was the first quarter that Meta had reported a downward trend of monthly active users.
Is it
Uh,
because of TikTok?
yeah, exactly. So Meta is facing a few significant challenges. TikTok being the biggest one of them, and also Apple's privacy related changes made it difficult for them in terms of the advertising business, right? That this obviously happened not now, but more than a year back. Those have been the headwinds for Meta. Obviously, we know that Meta did significant layoffs in the last few quarters. Mark Zuckerberg has said that this will be the year of efficiency. They also cut down their investments into the metaverse significantly. They have focused on profitability, so which is paying off. So I think
Yeah.
the streets really loved it. The stock went up 7%. The stock has been doing really well over the last 1.5 years.
I think in this year from Jan, it has tripled almost.
Yeah, so as you can see, year to date, the stock is up 153%. Beginning of the year, it was at $125. Now it is at 316. Very soon might be almost 3x
Yeah.
year to date. That for a big tech company is just amazing.
Yeah.
uh, Market cap of Facebook is $814 billion.
Wow.
So that's awesome. So yeah, it makes sense to talk about Microsoft since we are talking about all big tech. So Microsoft had a good quarter as well. So Microsoft's revenue was up 21% year over year to $56.19 billion, beating analyst expectations of $55.47 billion. Net income was $20 billion, up from $16.7 billion quarter of previous year. That's a crazy profitability number. $20 billion of profit from revenue of $55 billion is amazing. So that's the great thing about Microsoft's business, that it's very high margin business. Microsoft's cloud also did very well. Revenue from the cloud segment, stuff like Azure, SQL Server, Windows Server, was up 15% to $23.99 billion. Azure revenue grew 26%. Yeah, Microsoft's productivity and business process segment also had a good quarter with revenue up 19% to $17.7 billion. This segment includes products like Office 365, Dynamic 365, and LinkedIn. And the personal computing segment was the only one to miss expectations, with revenue up 11% to $14.42 billion. This segment includes products like Windows, Xbox, and Surface. So overall, Microsoft had a pretty strong quarterly results. All right, I think we are done summarizing the quarterly results of all the big tech companies except Amazon, and this is the perfect time for me to pass it over to you,
So
Vishal.
Amazon's earning actually they surprised actually everyone. This is the graph of last 5 years Amazon's net income. You can see that in December 2022 they actually reported a loss. Just
Yeah,
6 months back they reported a loss,
yeah,
and even 3 months back in March they reported the income of just around $4.3 billion.
yeah,
But just in these last 3 months they have tripled their net income, and they have reported an income which is far more than what it was pre-pandemic. We know all, like during pandemic there was a big spike, right? Because
yeah,
everything went online, so it was kind of expected, right? Just in 3 months pulling off a 3x profit, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Like
for such a big company. Yeah.
that is one of the key things I wanted to show, right? We will go more into detail about what all things were covered in this earning call. But this is one of the highlights where they have tripled the profit in just 3 months.
Yeah.
And I have one more slide to show how is their revenue looking from last 5 years. This is Amazon's revenue. I don't see this graph going down. It is just going exponentially up, right? That is the
Yeah.
power of Amazon's e-commerce business and AWS. I think the only thing that I saw there was a dip in December was because of they have invested heavily in Rivian,
Rivian.
and
Hmm.
yeah, because of that, in that December quarter,
There were
they
lots.
showed a loss, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think if you look at their earnings report, I think they have done pretty much almost like a amazing job in all of their segments, right? AWS, retail, streaming, all these businesses are booming. And on the other hand, what they have started doing is they have started cutting down on businesses that are not doing well. So businesses like Amazon Go, Amazon Fresh. These were the businesses, they were not making as much money. Like, I think those were the investments for future, right? But Amazon took a step back and said, okay, let's review all the businesses. And they quickly figured out some of the businesses that they want to, like,
Close.
either either close out or decelerate in them, right? Because it needs a lot of investment, right? And I think there were some layoffs as well in all of this story. So which is, according to me, for a company, I know these are hard decisions that they have to make, but eventually as a company, Amazon is doing really really well. And the prime, like the main focus is like all the businesses that are profit making, they want to just accelerate on them and decelerate on the businesses that are not making profit or
Yeah.
they are future looking, right? So I think in the call, CEO said that they have, like, they identified all these businesses and they are taking the right steps to improve this.
I know that we had a Amazon Go where I live. It was opened maybe like maybe 1 quarter back, and I think they decided to close all the
Yeah.
Amazon Go stores, from what I understand, right?
Yes.
So
and the
yeah.
reason and the reason they say is they are going to come up with a new format. They will change the format. I don't know what does that mean,
Mm,
but the reason for, like, even I looked up, and Amazon Go was one of the businesses that they decelerated on that and um, shut down that business. But I think the reason was they will come up with a different format. So maybe behind the scenes some more work is going on to make it better, to make it more cost effective, right? um, and if you know, there was this Amazon treasure truck, right?
mm.
I think they have stopped that one as well.
Oh yeah, I'm
So
sure. If Amazon Go
yeah.
is being killed, then truck does not stand a chance.
Yes. So
So I think the stock went up 10% approximately.
yeah, so because just because of this 3x profit we just saw, right? uh, Definitely Wall Street loves profits, right? So yeah, as soon as a company shows a huge amount of profit, the stock went up almost 10%, right?
Yeah. I think the street was also sleeping on Amazon for some
Yeah.
reason. Microsoft was getting a lot of love. Um, Google was getting love. Apple was getting a lot of love. Amazon was not. So I think this was due. So
Yeah.
Amazon stock went up 10%. And just to quickly, I'll just summarize for people who are not aware of the actual numbers. So for Amazon, it obviously beat the expectations in terms of both top and bottom lines. The net income was $6.7 billion, or 65 cents per diluted share, compared with a net loss of $2 billion, or 20 cents per diluted share. And revenue increased 11% to $134 billion in the second quarter. That's a crazy number to have a double digit revenue growth on an already huge
Yeah,
number like $120 billion is just crazy.
I will tell you
And
the biggest number that I saw was half a trillion in revenue in one year.
true,
That's a half a trillion.
that's crazy,
Like
right?
that's crazy amount of revenue.
Yeah. The company's North America segment saw the strongest growth, with sales increasing 11% to $82.5 billion. International segment sales increased 10% to $29.7 billion. AWS segment sales increased 12% to $22.1 billion. For the North America segment, retail sales to still grow 11% is just mind-boggling to me. I would think that this is already a saturated market, but for Amazon to keep growing, I think that is Amazon's secret superpower as well. It has a very small margin there, but it's a lot of people shopping, so they can use that traffic, those eyeballs, for other businesses like advertising, right? So Amazon's advertising business is doing really well, especially because you already have an intent to purchase because you are an Amazon, your card is on Amazon's payment method, so it's a very lucrative uh, real estate for people to
Yeah.
advertise on. So that's another like multi-billion-dollar business in itself that Amazon has.
And I remember one of the interviews, Jeff Bezos said that when they come to a scale, there will be more profit. And now we are seeing that as soon as the scale goes into half a trillion, we are seeing, yeah, like deliveries are being optimized, all that upfront cost that was put into the company, now it is paying off.
Yeah, Amazon also, I think, not directly related to earnings, but Amazon has also started calling its employees back to the office. So return to office. I think it's 3 days right now per week. Um, so that's I see a lot of threads on Blind about employees not being super happy about,
Yeah.
because a lot of people had moved to other cities or other states during the COVID, and then now they are having to come back. But the company believes that working in person is what it wants to do going forward. So a lot of employees, it's calling back. So yeah, interesting for us to kind of follow. There's obviously another great company,
Yeah.
and good to see great quarter.
So, Ankur, on the same lines, there is one more company which says at scale they will become super profitable. That is Uber.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about Uber. So why did I choose Uber? So Uber did something that it had not done ever since its existence, either pre-IPO or post-IPO. So Uber had the first profitable quarter in terms of operating income in Q2, so the last quarter. So that's a huge milestone for Uber, but also in general for any kind of ride-hailing business. So I have previously worked at a competitor of Uber, a ride-hailing business, and I know that how tough the whole ride-hailing business can be, especially to become profitable. So I can really appreciate that how like Uber became profitable in the last quarter, and what a amazing achievement it has been for the company, its employees, and definitely for Dara, the CEO of Uber, who I think is like one of the best CEOs of the current time. So anyway, so Uber reported its first operating profit last quarter, and if we go over the numbers, the revenues for the last quarter were $9.23 billion. Net income was $394 million. Diluted earnings per share was 18 cents. The profitability, it beat the analysts' expectations, but on revenue, it did not. It missed the expectations by about 1%. So the stock was up 6% after hours trading, but it quickly lost all that gain when real trading started, because again, kind of the similar theme as what you had mentioned, Vishal, that the guidance was a little muted compared to what the analysts were expecting. So that's kind of the summary of the quarterly results. I also listed down some of the highlights that I thought was worth mentioning. So obviously, the first ever positive operating income quarter. Uh, CEO says they will be focusing on making sure that the future quarters are profitable as well. I think this is the beauty of scale, as we saw with Amazon. Uber invested heavily in making sure that they had a very high performing, very efficient business for mobility. So their ride hailing business, delivery, so things like Uber Eats, Postmates, etc. And then the third aspect, which they have recently invested on, was Uber Freight. I think they are trying to get into a similar space as companies like Flexport. So that scale is really starting to pay off, right? So because the total revenues run into like tens of billions of dollars, even if you have a very small profit margin from that huge number, you can generate a huge cash flow. So for Uber, the cash flow in the last quarter was $1 billion, and it seems like it is slowly becoming a money printing business. So I was looking at the details of the earnings, and their delivery business is as big as the mobility business, right? There is, I think last quarter it was actually even bigger than the mobility business. This quarter, again, mobility is a little bit bigger than the delivery business. So you basically have like two large businesses within Uber. And then, as I mentioned, freight is the new business that they have started investing into. They saw a good traction. So it remains to be seen how that business turns out to be. Advertising business is doing really well. This is one of the areas that Uber is going to focus on going forward, because like millions of people use their apps or the cars. That's a great spot for them to put advertising on. So think of things like tablets behind the driver's seat that any kind of rider can see. So like companies can advertise there. You can also advertise on the app. So Uber is investing heavily into the advertising business, and typically advertising business is a very high margin business. And because margin is a big challenge for Uber, I think focusing on advertising makes a lot of sense. There were also a lot of positives from the other company investments that Uber has made. So Uber has large investments into companies like Grab, which is another ride-hailing business in Asia. Then Lime, which is a scooter business. Aurora, which is a self-driving business. So all that investments, those are not realized profits, but they do something called a mark to market valuation, and based on that, the valuation of those companies have gone up quarter over quarter. So Uber has positive addition to profitability from those companies. Another highlight was that recently Uber announced a partnership with Waymo. Waymo is Google's self-driving business. Both Uber and Waymo are partnering together to start their self-driving in Uber cars. I think they're starting with Phoenix, Arizona. And so for people who know, Uber actually had its own self-driving unit, and in December of 2020 decided to sell off that business and focus solely on things like mobility and delivery, because Uber felt that it was distracting for it. So but Uber didn't just sell the business. What Uber did was Uber actually sold the business to this company called Aurora, and Uber had made a $400 million investments in Aurora. Aurora is basically one of the self-driving companies, right? So it was started by people from Tesla, Google, and other companies which specialize in self-driving business. So that investment is finally paying off, it seems like, because that helped Uber become profitable. That play is happening as well, the self-driving play. Finally, the last highlight that I saw was Uber also announced a partnership with Domino, which I think is a win-win for both Domino's and Uber. Partnership is for like any user of Uber Eats can now order Domino's pizza or other stuff from Domino's, and they will be delivered by the Domino's delivery network, right? So it won't be like an Uber Eats car going to pick up your pizza, but Domino's already has a very strong delivery network, so they will be delivering it for you. So this is win-win, because like a whole user base which is on Uber Eats now has, like now Domino's has access to them, and then it's good for Uber Eats as well, because you can just directly order Domino's pizza from there, and hopefully at a lower price than ordering it through Uber Eats. So this is something that's starting in fall of this year, and this can help both Domino's and Uber. So if you remember, Vishal, I had Domino's as one of my picks last month,
Yeah.
and so this was also one of the reasons that
Okay.
the Domino's stock was like going up, and it showed a lot of strength. It kind of stayed at like it went up, I think 10%, and it stayed there, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, so these were the highlights. I think challenges in terms of the business. I think I don't see any new challenge, but like regulation was always a challenge for Uber from the beginning, uh, when it started. So that will continue to be one of the challenges.
I think I saw one good thing, right? One good thing is, as there is more return to office culture, I
Yeah,
think Uber is going to get a lot of traction from there, right? Because it is going to help the mobility business a lot.
yeah.
So
That
I
was
think
one
it's,
of the highlights for like that was one of the reason that it helped Uber finally.
yeah.
The Yeah, so that was Uber. So let me ask you, can you tell me? um so Uber went IPO in 2019. Okay,
Mhm.
I think May of 2019. Can you tell me what was the price of the Uber stock when it went IPO? I'll tell you
Uh,
the price of the Uber stock right now. So right now
mhm.
the Uber stock is Uber. Right now the price of Uber is $45 per share. Can you tell me what was the price when it went IPO?
I think I don't remember it. Maybe that time I might have followed it, but to be honest, I never owned Uber. I think, was it around $80 or $90, between somewhere between $80 and $90?
No, that would be crazy, right? Like people bought the IPO for $80, and then after 4 years, it's still half. No, it was basically
Okay,
$41.57. So I think it on the first day it was $41.57,
okay.
and right now it is about $45. So the point
I,
I was trying to make is like it took so it's finally above its IPO price
okay,
with this
IPO
quarter's
price.
result.
Okay. So why I told you it might be 80 or 90, because there is one stock that I remember, that is Robinhood.
Yeah,
Robinhood, it IPO'd around 42 or something. It went to 80, and it came back to $9 or $10. And it has been more than at least 3 years now.
it was a
So
crazy
yeah,
time.
there are some companies IPO prices. To be honest, I don't trust IPO prices.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was Uber. And let's talk about the next one, which I believe. So you want to talk about AMD?
Yes, sure. The reason I selected AMD is AMD has a very interesting story. In 2018, the stock price for AMD was $10, and today the stock price is $116.
Nice.
Just in almost less than 5 years, right? 5 years or less than 5 years. the stock price has almost 11 times, or I should say 12 times, right?
Yeah.
So why this is happening? Actually, at one point the stock went to $160. Why this is happening? I will show you a chart of their last 5 years earning report. Yeah, here you can see how AMD has done from last 5 years, right? So if you see in 2018, right, like they were not having a lot of growth, maybe like 5 billion or something, right? But in these 5 years, they are doing 20 billion almost now, right?
Yeah.
So if you compare this quarter actually, this is the first time, these last 2 quarters actually, in last at least 3 to 4 years, where they have went negative on their quarterly growth.
Hmm.
But if you see the stock price, the street still believes in them. The stock price has actually went up in these 2 quarters. So that is the anomaly that I wanted to show here, right? Why actually the street loves AMD a lot. And the
Yeah.
reason for that is because I think the company has the potential to do a big breakthrough. So if you know like the chips that AMD is making, right? AMD makes Epic and Ryzen. These are the two latest processors that they have launched for data centers.
Okay.
And I think all big cloud providers, right? They are loving it, and they are gonna use those chipsets, right? Also recently they announced that they are launching MI300, which is an AI chip, and it is set to be a competitor for H100 NVIDIA chip.
Hmm.
So even though after reporting negative growth, their revenue was down by 18% year on year, which is a big drop, right? But if you see their stock price is going up, which is very contrary to what we have seen Wall Street does to reducing profits and growth revenues, right? I'm waiting for their AI chip to be launched, and the promise is it is far better than the existing AI chips, right? It is one of the AI chips that is revolutionary. So I'm waiting for it and want to see the real impact. Hopefully, I get to try it somehow. Uh, so yeah, I think yeah, there is nothing fancy about the earnings call, as I said, right? But the anomaly of having less revenue, less profit, less growth, and the Wall Street loves it still, right? And that is because they see the future of this company, I think, right? They believe in the future of AMD.
Cool. So I think we had a good roundup of the earnings for
Yeah.
the second quarter, and let's talk about the fantasy stock picks. All right. So before we talk about the picks for the month of August, let's do a roundup of where we both stood end of the last month in July and who was the winner. So these are the picks that I had: Apple, Meta, Netflix, and Domino's Pizza last month, and my total profit was $652 for Vishal. The profit was $664. It was so Vishal won the last month's fantasy stock picks. So congratulations, Vishal.
Thank you, Ankur. I think it was down to the wire till last 15 minutes or
Oh
something,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It was like I think it was like I think the winner was decided probably in the last 30 minutes of
30 minutes,
the
right? I
last
think
session.
I remember that you had a big position in Meta, and Meta was doing actually really good a day before, one day before the closing. And I think you were almost $100 or $50 above like my grains, right?
Yeah,
So I think on that day specifically, Meta went took a small hit because I think Threads. There was some report about Threads, right? Uh, the users are fleeing away from Threads because there is no monetization. So I think the street didn't like it. They took a small dip, and we have to close it on that day, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was a very close game, uh, to be honest. Yeah, and we can see that we both have gained significant, actually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have gained around 1382. I have gained around 1210.
Yeah, this is the leaderboard for the June and July. So in June, I won, and in July, Vishal has won. And in total, the cumulative gains for me has been 1,382 uh, dollars, and for Vishal, it has been $1,210. So let's look at what are the picks for the month of August. So for me, I again chose only four stocks, and I went with Ford. So I chose Ford, I chose Airbnb. This is the second time I'm picking Airbnb. And then I chose a gene editing company called CRISPR. Um, and again, like a not a like a software tech company. It's into gene editing and medicines. And then my fourth pick was QQQ, which is ETF investing in Nasdaq. Right. So this month has been very different from the previous 2 months. So I am sitting on a massive loss of almost $600 on my investment of 382 dollars. So yeah, generally the market has been trending downwards, and my stocks have not been very resistant. So a lot of loss for me. And for Vishal, go ahead, Vishal, talk about your pick.
So I think this time, the difference in my portfolio is I don't have any ETF at this time. And to
Mhm.
be honest, I went with most of the companies who have earnings in this month.
Okay.
So, but on that, there are hundreds of, like, I think probably 500 different companies who will do earning this month, right? So it is hard to pick exactly like the best 10, but I did my best effort. So the idea behind this is Shopify and Amazon are the e-commerce play. Nvidia is again the AI chip play. I had PayPal, which was a very strange pick because PayPal has been there from a long time, right? But I
Yeah.
think they are gonna change something, right? In their app or in their business plan, they are introducing crypto now.
Mm.
So that is the reason I have it, but I don't know whether market will reward it or punish it. So I'm having the massive loss right now on PayPal. It is almost $110. On the other hand, I have Workday. Again, AMD is one of the chip play. ServiceNow. I have my old friends, Home Depot and Lowe's. And then I have one stock which is an overlap with Ankur, that is Airbnb. And I chose Airbnb because I think maybe because this is a summer time and many people will book Airbnb. I am having that same mindset. I think Ankur mentioned it before. So yeah, I am just picking that for that purpose only. So I am at a loss of around 200 and sorry, $430. So yeah,
You at least have
definitely.
one positive. The Amazon pick
Yes.
has been good one.
After, yeah, in this rough market, I got lucky with one stock, and we actually covered the earnings report for that stock as well,
Yeah.
and that is Amazon, right? It has helped me to at least minimize the losses that are there. And my biggest loss making pick was Shopify. Actually, these both, like, my best stock and my worst stock are from the same category. Both
E-commerce.
of them belong to e-commerce.
What happened to
So
Shopify? It looks like a lot of loss from Shopify. I think they
yeah,
announced results today or something.
their results came out, I think, right? Let's check.
Yeah, maybe 2 days back. Huh?
So Shopify actually announced their earnings, and looks like their revenue was up, but they took a huge hit on the net income. Yeah, and my last pick, as I said, right, Airbnb, which overlaps with Ankur.
Awesome. That's it for today's episode of the Tech Banter. You can go to thetechbanter.com and check out all the past episodes. Please subscribe, like, and follow us. We are available on YouTube and all other major podcasts. So, Shopify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. I think that's it for today. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Bye.